Well, the votes are in, I tally them all up, and it turns out the winner of the Sonic Universe arc that I will be reviewing is the Mobius 30 Years Later story arc. To be honest, I was kind of surprised that this was the one that people asked for the most. I thought at first it was going to be Treasure Team Tango, since a lot of people like that arc too. But 30 Years Later won, so here we go. First of all, thanks to everyone who voted. I really appreciated it. Now, without wasting any more time, let's dive right in. I am Sonic Comic World, and here is my review of Sonic Universe issue number 5. Now, of course, most of us already know about the first arc that featured an X Years Later story arc, which were issues 131 through 144 written by Ken Penders. And then when Ian Flynn took over as head writer for the comics, he wrote 2 issues that continued the story, seeing as how issue 144 ended on a huge cliffhanger. But I'm not here to review those issues yet. I'm here to review the 3rd installment of The Future of Mobius, now entitled 30 Years Later. So let's take a look. Well, the cover seems promising enough. It shows quite a few characters on it that we should expect to see, including what looks to be the return of Sonic and Sally's kids. Yeah, I can tell Laura Sue is very happy about that. So we begin with some cat named Sasha. Resemblance at all? As she delivers a news report on what people are calling the 5 years of peace. Yeah, well, it's been a while since the last X Years Later story, so they might as well try and explain what happened before. So she begins by saying that the world was both rescued and then conquered in 1 year by Shadow the Hedgehog, and when Shadow became king, there was peace in the world, but it also came with strict rule and harsh punishment. So to try and tone down Shadow's harsh ways, Queen Sally ended up marrying him. Shadow and Sally. Yeah, I think that expression sums up that couple perfectly. Also, what are they exactly implying here? Are they saying that Shadow was already king before he married Sally? How is that even possible when Shadow is not even part of a royal family? I mean, when Sonic suddenly disappeared, did Shadow just say, "Okay, I'm king now. Anyone got a problem with that? Yeah? Well, guess what? I don't care about your opinion, so fuck you." Well, I guess if Nakas could do it, Shadow could do it as well. So after Shadow and Sally got married, God, I can't believe I just said that, the world capital was moved to Angel Island, and while Sally continued to help her people, Shadow continued to be a complete asshole. But then 5 years ago, Knuckles along with his daughter led an invasion against Castle Mobius. Helped by Sonic, who everyone thought was dead at the time, they were able to defeat Shadow and Sonic took over as the new king. And now 5 years later, everyone is going to be celebrating the anniversary of Sonic's success and Mobius's 5 years of peace. We then suddenly cut to the royal family where we see King Sonic, Queen Sally, and their 2 kids, Manic and Sonia. Oh, grow up! And yes, as many of you know by now, Sonic and Sally's kids are the same names used for Sonic's brother and sister in the TV show Sonic Underground. Why they decided on those names, I don't know, but don't worry, this issue has nothing to do with that stupid show. By the way, why are Manic and Sonia's last names Acorn? Does this mean that when Sonic and Sally got married, they took Sally's name instead of Sonic's? Not that I'm complaining or anything, it's just that you don't see that a lot these days, do you? I guess it's because Sally is actual royalty, so they had to go with Acorn. Or maybe it's because they just didn't want to reveal Sonic's last name. I guess that makes sense, because it would have been kind of weird if Sonia's name card actually said Princess Sonia Hedgehog, when Sonia is not even a... Well, yeah, you get the idea. So Sonic is a little tense because he's a little worried about the public speech he has to do tomorrow. But tonight they are taking the night off to relax, which unfortunately doesn't make the kids really happy. Is it just me, or did Manic just turn into Eric Cartman there for a second? But suddenly there is a knock on the door, and it turns out to be Laura Sue, who is here to babysit the kids tonight, much to the children's excitement. Huh. So this is what the Guardian of Angel Island does with her spare time? Babysitting some little kids? I don't remember that being the job description. I mean, granted, she is watching over the prince and princess, so I guess that's a pretty big deal. But can you imagine if Knuckles was put in charge of babysitting some little kids? Okay, son. Now today, your job is to babysit some little children. Why? Well, because it is your duty as guardian. But I thought being a guardian was protecting the Master Emerald. Son, think about it. Why do you think we call it guardian? Ah, crap. So as Sonic and Sally head out, Sally tells Laura Sue to contact them if she needs anything, but Laura Sue tells her that she will be able to handle the royal twins just fine. Oops. So yeah, the kids start running amok, but Laura Sue manages to stop them using her chaos control. She puts them to bed, tells them a lame-ass story, and tells them to shut their traps while she makes a quick phone call to her parents. It turns out Knuckles and Julie Sue are in Missouri of all places, trying to negotiate with some separatists that are apparently causing trouble down there. Wait a minute. Missouri? As in the Missouri from Sonic Unleashed? And they are apparently trying to stop some separatists? Wow. And here I was thinking that they were actually nice people. Well, okay, they probably weren't talking about that specific family, but still, this whole backstory of what Knuckles and Julie Sue are doing just seems kind of random. I mean, they just give us a brief explanation of where they are and what they were doing, and then nothing. They never bring it up again or acknowledge them ever again in the story arc. Kind of weird seeing as how Knuckles played an important role in the other X Years Later stories, but here he and Julie Sue are just tossed aside like yesterday's leftovers. Oh well, personally though, I think that panel was just an excuse to tie in Sonic Unleashed into the comics. Even though at the very beginning of every issue it says, a world beyond what you know from the Sega games. But then again, just last issue, Hope mentions the city of Soliana. Oh, that's just great. Next thing you know, they'll probably introduce... Oh, God, no! Well, anyway, continuing on, Julie Sue asks how the twins are doing. Laura Sue says they are adorable, that is until a loud noise issues from their room. Ah, the classic line of she started it or he started it. I think we all remember using that line at least once in our childhood. Pity it never worked, though. So Julie Sue goes on to say that she was glad Laura Sue was an only child. Yeah, I gotta say, I quite agree with her on that. I'm an only child myself, and all I can say for that is... So Laura Sue says goodbye to her parents, and she goes to check on the kids, only to find a pillow thrown in her face. So as the kids start running around again, Laura Sue counterattacks with a flying pillow pummel attack. Ugh. You know, I know this scene is supposed to be cute and all, but I'm actually starting to get a little bored now. Come on, where's the action? Where's the suspense? Where's the drama? Where's the... Oh. Well, okay, this is certainly different. So we suddenly cut to Leanda, or Linda, whatever the hell you want to call her, the leader of the Dark Presence. I guess Dark Legion just wasn't intimidating enough. Also, I love how the Dark Presence is now divided into different groups, like how spies are called the Dark Eyes and soldiers are called the Dark Hands. What do they call the Dark Feets? Janitors? The Dark Noses are chefs? The Dark Hearts are Care Bear killers? Why did I bring that up? Well, anyway, it seems the Dark Presence is keeping an eye on Laura Sue, but Leanda decides to not move in, because she doesn't want to risk the children's safety, seeing as how they are innocent in all of this. Her main goal is to only strike down the guilty ones, which, oddly enough, consist of her niece Laura Sue, Knuckles and Julie Sue, and Queen Sally and King Sonic. Wait a minute. What? Okay, so you don't want any harm to come to the children, and yet you still want to try and kill Sonic and Sally. Lady, think about this for a second. If you manage to kill the kids' parents, isn't that kind of causing harm to them in the first place? I mean, those kids will be absolutely devastated with their parents gone. Depriving a kid from his or her parents is probably the most evil thing you could do, and yet you don't want to take the risk of causing the kids pain? Leanda, you really need to get your priorities straight here. So we cut to the next morning, where everyone has gathered around the castle for the king's speech. And in this huge crowd, we see the Prower family, consisting of Tails, Mina, or Mina, whatever, and their two Whoa! What? Okay, I don't mean to be rude here, but I'll just come out and ask it. How the ruddy hell did Tails and Mina end up together? I know it may seem pointless to talk about this, but I'm sorry, this really needs an explanation here. How did these two characters that have had little to no dialogue whatsoever between them and have shared absolutely no interest in each other at all in the comics ended up falling in love, getting married, and having kids? Ever since this odd coupling was introduced, it's been bugging me like mad. I mean, you expect me to believe that Tails and Mina ended up getting married when they have never even been together once in the main series? That is a lot to buy, guys. I just don't understand this at all, and since there's absolutely no explanation of how these two got together, I'm at a loss for words. Yeah, you heard me. There is no explanation at all on how Tails and Mina became a couple. And I guess we have Ken Penders to thank for that. He was the one that wrote the first Mobius 25 Years Later story, and so he was the one that introduced the pairing of Tails and Mina. But did he explain at all how the two got together? Of course not. In fact, he hardly mentions it at all. It just comes out of frickin' nowhere in a quick flashback. That's it. No explanation, no additional information. It just appears in one panel and then, boom, never to be brought up again. That is just bad writing at its finest. We just have to immediately assume that Tails and Mina are a couple with absolutely no background information whatsoever. And that is bullshit. And when Ian Flynn became the new writer, I was hoping that at least he would give us some explanation of how Tails and Mina became a couple, but no, we still got nothing, zilch, nada. Now, a lot of you might say, just go with it, it's not really that important. And yes, I can sort of agree with you on that, because even though this couple makes absolutely no sense, I kind of like it. It's certainly a lot better than the couple of Tails and Fiona, or Mina and Ash. I'm happy that Tails managed to find someone special in his life. All I'm asking is just a simple explanation. Maybe just a 5-page story of how it happened and why. Is that just too much to ask? I would just feel a lot better knowing how these two totally different characters that have hardly anything in common ended up as a future couple. Now, I know that this future of Mobius is technically non-canon with the main story, which pretty much means anything can happen. But with couples like Sonic and Sally and Knuckles and Julius Sue, at least those make sense because we've seen them together before in the main story. For Tails and Mina, though, there is absolutely nothing. I mean, did the creators just decide to pick a random person for Tails to be with in the future?
Let's see. What about Fiona?
Nah, she's a bitch.
Oh. What about that girl that Tails kept blushing at in the Journey to the East saga?
That story hasn't been made yet, dumbass.
Oh, right. Well, what about Nicole?
Dude, that's fucked up.
Well, who else is there?
Mina?
Okay, fine, let's go with her then.
But won't our readers be a little confused if we put her with Tails?
Screw them, they won't give a crap.
Well, guess what, guys? I do give a crap. Okay, I think I've said enough about that, so let's move on. Laura Sue comes flying in to greet the Prowers, and it is here where we see the names of Tails and Mina's children, Melody and Sky. Get it? Because Mina sings with a melody and Tails can fly in the sky? Yeah, that's pretty stupid. So it seems that Laura Sue is a little nervous today because this is her first big assignment on her own, but Tails reassures her that she will be able to keep everyone safe. But it seems that the Dark Presence has other ideas, as Leanda checks in on 4 teams to see if they are in position. Teams A, B, and D are good to go, but it seems Team C is stuck in traffic and will not be able to make it. Why he can't just go up, under, or around the traffic is beyond me, but Leanda confirms that the mission is still a go. Seriously though, you're flying above the ground, which means you can move in any fucking direction. Why is there still traffic when you're flying in the air? So it seems that everyone is ready for the big celebration, including King Sonic himself. Sheesh, those kids are nothing but brats, aren't they? So the royal family sets out to great cheers from the crowd, and King Sonic begins his speech. He goes on to say that he respects the people for accepting him as king, how it's because of the people that there is finally peace, how even though they all have differences, we still are all special on the inside, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. So while that boring speech is going on, Laura Sue suddenly spots 2 echidnas on a rooftop with a rocket launcher at the ready. She quickly disposes of them both, only to realize that the launcher wasn't even armed. It was just a decoy. Nothing but a phony.
A big fat phony!
And it turns out that Leanda had the armed launcher all this time as she fires it at the royal family. Okay, now wait a minute here. Leanda said just yesterday that she didn't want to risk the deaths of Manic and Sonia because they were innocent. And yet today she's firing a frickin' rocket at them with no hesitation on the children at all. Why the hell did she suddenly change her mind all of a sudden? Did she just think, well, if I'm gonna kill the parents, I might as well kill the kids too? After all, I'm evil enough to do something like that, aren't I? It just seems like a weird change of tone if you ask me. So the rocket heads right at the royal family, and because Laura Sue was distracted earlier, she is too late to stop it. But just before the missile makes its mark, it suddenly gets trapped in a green snot bubble and explodes inside of it. It seems someone did manage to save the royal family from death. But if it wasn't Laura Sue who did it, then who? Oh look, it's Silver! Cool! Nice! Great! Alright! Whoopee! Yeah! Awesome! Sweet! Yippee! Ugh. And that ends the first issue of the Mobius 30 Years Later story arc. Is it a good beginning? Well, I have to be honest. When I first read this issue, I thought it was great, but looking at it now, it does have a few flaws. Probably the biggest flaw is that it's just, well, boring. There isn't a lot of action, suspense, or drama. Most of the issue is just people talking, and more people talking, and more people talking. Kind of like Star Wars Episode 2. Nothing really exciting happens throughout the entire thing, and it only starts to pick up near the end. There are some other flaws that I have with this issue, but since they continue on in the next couple of issues as well, I'll talk about them at the end. But I wouldn't call this issue bad exactly. It was nice to see quite a few of our favorite characters in the future again, even if some only had a small cameo. And even though the story began a little slow, it certainly got interesting near the end, and it ended on a pretty decent cliffhanger. The colors were bright and colorful for our heroes, and dark and eerie for our villains. And the pencil work by Tracy Yardley is always nice to look at. Overall, I give this issue a 7 out of 10. Not terrible, but nothing really spectacular. It just began the story a little too slowly, which to me means they probably wanted to save all the dramatic and action stuff for the later issues. And did they succeed? Well, find out next time when I take a look at Sonic Universe issue number 6. So until next time, this has been Sonic Comic World. Thank you all for watching, and keep on juicing.